Welcome back to Smoke Barbecue Source. I'm Ricer, and a lot of you that are watching this video right now are deciding on what pellet grill you should buy that's going to match your budget for $700 or less. So we picked 5 pits that will fit in that category. At the time of recording this video, these pits range from $400 to $700. When I got my hands on these pits, I made the testing pretty simple. I just used them. Plus, this is a great time to subscribe to the channel because we've got a lot more top 5 videos coming out real soon. Well, we certainly have a lot to cover, so let's roll the tape. To start this list off at number 5, we have the Recteq 380B Bullseye Pellet Grill. The packaging on this Bullseye is really good. Most of the parts are right in the hopper. And to put it together took the boys under 30 minutes, so it's a really simple assembly. Like all Recteqs, the build quality on the Bullseye is pretty dang good. And the chamber itself is made out of 304 stainless steel. The overall footprint on this Recteq Bullseye is pretty small. We're 40 inches wide, 36 inches tall, and because of the front handle, we're 28 inches deep. We have a 15-pound hopper, so I would never plan to do an overnight cook with this pit unless I plan to get up every 3 hours and check and make sure that I have pellets in that hopper. I really like that it has this little latch to keep this lid down tight. The one downfall about the hopper, it does not have a pellet dump. The Bullseye does have one probe port and they send you one probe. The Recteq Bullseye does have a PID controller, but because of the direct design on this pit, it does require a little bit more attention. You really don't want to walk away from this pit for very long. The temperature range is 200 to 525 degree increments, but after that they have what they call the riot mode, and this pit will actually get up to 750 degrees. The Bullseye has 380 square inches of cooking space, and it has a 22-inch porcelain-coated cooking grate. The hinge for the lid, it's built okay, but here's a pro tip. Make sure you add that lid spacer because that actually helps your lid sit nice and flat. On the back of the lid, you'll see some vents, and obviously that's where the smoke exits on this pit. You have a small little shelf on the bottom of the Bullseye where you can store some of your cooking accessories. 2 of the legs, they do have the wagon style wheels, but the other 2, they're just pegs. If you're gonna take it for a long journey, it's probably best to just walk along the side of it. The one thing that I wish Recteq would change on these wagon wheels is those press-on self-locking nuts. Everything that I cooked on the Recteq 380 Bullseye has been really good. It has a really good smoky flavor. Obviously, it is a pellet grill, so I had to smoke up some no-wrap St. Louis ribs. Not only was I very satisfied with the color that this pit developed, it also had a fantastic smoky and juicy flavor. I did a couple different pork butt cooks on this pit because of user error. I didn't notice in the manual that if you're going to do a low and slow cook, they suggest that you put a little drip pan on top of the heat deflector. Now with that said, it didn't stand out in the manual either. So with the first pork butt, it got scorched. The second one, I put a foil pan underneath it so I didn't have to worry about having another grease fire. The cook that I remember the most off the Bullseye was I smoked up some chicken wings, and they were probably the best chicken wings that I've had off a pellet grill in a very long time. Not only does this pellet grill smoke at the lower temperatures, it also smokes at the higher temperatures. So I've rated this pit a chicken wing machine. To clean up the Bullseye, it's really simple. All you have to do is take out the grate and the heat deflector and vacuum it up really good. The more that you cook on the Bullseye, the more this cooking chamber is going to develop a very dark patina. If you want to keep it looking like new, you're going to have to spend a lot of time polishing it up after every single cook. My overall opinion on the Recteq 380 Bullseye pellet grill is very positive. Like I said earlier, this pit smokes. But don't worry, you don't have a dirty smoke flavor. So this pit is perfect for somebody that wants to start to learn how to cook barbecue, or for somebody that might want a second pit but they don't want to spend a lot of money. If there was a couple things that I could change on the Bullseye, number 1, I'd like to see 4 rotating and locking casters on it. And number 2, I wish it did have a pellet dump. Number 4, we have the Z-Grill 700 2F pellet grill. The packaging on this pit, it was good, but I'm always amazed at how much stuff they can get in that little box. It took the boys an hour and a half to do this build because there's a little bit more to assemble on this 700 2F. Because you need to attach the hopper to the chamber. The build quality, it's good, and it weighs in at 113 pounds. This pit is 48 inches wide, 51 inches tall, and 26 inches deep. We have a 24-pound hopper, which is easily enough for an overnight cook. The Z-Grill 700 2F does have a pellet dump, which is great to change out to a different type of wood. We have a digital analog controller, and we have a temp range of 180 up to 450 degrees in levels of 25-degree increments. We have 2 probe ports, and they send you 2 meat probes. The chamber is made out of powder-coated steel. We have 697 square inches of cooking space, 504 square inches on the main bottom grate, and 193 square inches on the top warming rack. And the grates, they're made out of porcelain-coated steel. This pit doesn't have any shelves, but you can use the hopper lid if you want to put your cutting board on there, or if you need to do any prep before the cook. We have 2 wagon-style wheels and 2 rotating locking casters. And this helps make this pit very easy to move. The 700 2F does produce a decent amount of smoke, and honestly, every single Z-Grills that I've had, it just runs, and it runs well. The first test cook that I did, I smoked up some baby back ribs, and this little pit did a great job. They had a beautiful color, and they were tender and juicy. Then I smoked up a pork tenderloin barbecue style. So that means I added a little bit of sauce on the outside, and wow, look at that barbecue sheen. The cleanup on this Z-Grills is just like every standard pellet grill. Take out the cooking components, scrape it down, and then vacuum it up. My opinion on this Z-Grill 700 2F is good. It's perfect for a small family or someone who wants to dabble around and start learning how to smoke up some barbecue. If there's one thing that I could change, I would add a side shelf to this pit. Just having the hopper lid is not quite enough. Number 3, the Traeger Pro 22 pellet grill. For a lot of people out there, this is the first pellet grill that they've ever owned. And some of them, they're still running it today. The packaging on Traeger, well, I can't really say about this one because we had it delivered already assembled. But with Traeger, their pits are always packaged very well. The build quality on this pit is very similar to the Z-Grills. I wonder why. Leave a comment below if you already know the answer. The Traeger Pro 22 weighs 103 pounds. It's 41 inches wide, 49 inches tall, and 27 inches deep. We have an 18-pound hopper, which is borderline for an overnight cook. You are going to want to check, though, at the 6-hour mark. It has a pellet dump, and the design, it's better than most of these other pits because once you've opened it up, it really flows out. It has a digital analog controller with a temperature range of 180 to 450 and can be adjusted in increments of 25 degrees. Obviously, it's an analog controller, so this one doesn't have a Wi-Fi app either. We have 2 probe ports, and they send you 2 probes. And actually, if you see, they are kind of color coordinated. The chamber on the Pro 22 is powder coated steel. We have 527 square inches of cooking space with 418 square inches on the bottom rack and 154 on the top warming rack. And both grates are made out of porcelain coated steel. Like the Bullseye and the Z-Grill, it does not have a side shelf, but you can use the hopper lid if needed. We have 2 wagon wheels and 2 peg legs. But it certainly is not a heavy pit, but it's just awkward because you have to pick it up to pull it around. The first cook that I did on this pit, we smoked up a couple breasts and some quarters just so we could caramelize up some of our favorite sauce. Of course, I had to smoke up some pork ribs, and this time I did some St. Louis ribs. I certainly had some great smoky flavor and that perfect bite off the bone. And another fun cook that I did, I smoked up some chicken. Threw in some breasts and some boneless thighs so we could make up some awesome fajitas and quesadillas on the flat rock griddle. That's the great thing about a smoker. If you don't eat all of it that same day, you can certainly come up with some fantastic recipes with the leftovers. Some of you might be saying, why do you keep on telling me about how the cleanup is? Because if you get a pellet grill, that is part of the process. And it really can't get any easier on the Traeger. Scrape it down and then vacuum it up. My opinion on the Pro 22 is positive, and yes, it's been around for a while, but that speaks volumes. It is older technology, but it's still good technology. If there's one thing that I could change, I would put a side shelf on it and 2 rotating locking casters. It fits in the category as a great entry-level pit. It also is great for a small family. You have a decent amount of cooking space in this pit, so you'll be able to get the job done. For all of you that are wondering why I said the Z Grill and the Pro 22 are very similar, that's because up until about 5 years ago, Z Grills actually was the manufacturer for Traeger. Coming in at number 2, the Pit Boss Sportsman 820. The packaging on this pit was good, but it's pretty standard that way on all Pit Boss grills. It took the boys a little over an hour to do the assembly on the Sportsman, but it certainly will help to have 2 people when it's time to attach the legs. You have to hook them up through the chamber. The build quality on this pit is good, and that's because Pit Boss uses a little thicker steel on all of their pits. This grill, it weighs 157 pounds. This pit is just over 58 inches wide, a little over 52 inches tall, and 32 inches deep. The Sportsman has a 21-pound hopper, and that's big enough to do an overnight cook, but I certainly would want to check after about 6 hours. It still can do what I like to call a log jam. It can start to pile up, and it might not be actually reaching all the way down to the auger. This hopper also has a pellet dump, which is handy if you want to change out any type of flavor of wood because you're cooking a different type of protein. The Sportsman is ran off a digital analog controller, and we have a temp range of 180 up to 500 degrees in increments of either 25 or 50. You have 2 probe ports, and they send you 1 meat probe. We have 849 square inches of cooking space. The bottom rack is made out of cast iron, and we have 593 square inches. The top rack is made out of steel, and we have 256 square inches. We have a nice sturdy bottom shelf where you can store some of your cooking accessories. We have 1 folding shelf, and it's pretty sturdy. We have 1 removable stainless steel side shelf. On the hopper side, we have 2 standard legs. And on the other side, we have 2 wagon wheels, and obviously they do not rotate, which makes this pit kind of hard to move around. A couple test cooks that pop in my brain that I did on the Sportsman 820. Number 1, I did a turkey, and it turned out fantastic. If you've never cooked turkey on a pellet grill, what are you waiting for? Smoke to any poultry certainly amplifies that flavor. We love to grill up some shrimp, and the 820 did a fantastic job seeing that it has that flame broiler. I just cranked up this little pit to get it nice and hot, and wow, these things only took a matter of minutes. I'm talking good when you can kiss them with a little flame to add a little bit of char. I have 2 grown boys, and they absolutely love burgers. The benefit with this pit, not only can you add some smoke to this cook, you can also add a little char from that flame broiler. When it comes to the cleanup on the Sportsman 820, you basically only have 1 extra step compared to other pellet grills. You do have to disconnect the handle and prop it up so you can get out that drip pan. Other than that, you just scrape it up and vacuum it out, and then you can start cooking again. My overall opinion on this pit is very positive. Not only can you smoke on it, you can also grill. Yeah, the sear zone is not that big, but it still has one compared to a lot of the other pits that we've been talking about. This pit is a really good entry-level pellet grill, or it is also really good for a small family. If there's one thing that I could change on this Sportsman 820 is I would certainly add some rotating casters to those legs. Finally, number 1, the Camp Chef DLX 24-inch pellet grill. Yet again, the packaging was good on the DLX, and the assembly was super easy, and it took less than 1 hour. And they commented how great it is that they actually label each little part bag with the step that you're going to have to do. And all the parts, they just lined up and they were easy to put together. And this pit, it feels pretty sturdy. it weighs 140 pounds. The Camp Chef DLX is about 58 inches wide, 47 inches tall, and about 32 inches deep. We have an 18-pound hopper, and again, I wouldn't trust not checking on it after 6 hours on any overnight cook. You have a pellet dump, or what Camp Chef likes to call it, a pellet purge. Oh yeah, it also has a nice little magnetic hopper lid. That just helps keep it in place if you gotta haul this pit around. This pit is ran off their Gen 2 PID controller. The initial startup on the DLX is pretty slick because the controller is programmed with a feed cycle. Once you've pressed the button to confirm to do that, it'll automatically feed it for about 7 minutes. The temperature range is 160 up to 500 degrees. Not only can you adjust the temperature level in 5-degree increments, you can also adjust the smoke level. With this pit being able to run at 160 degrees, that gives you the option of actually resting inside or holding this and keeping your cook warm until you're ready to serve. We have 2 probe ports and they send you 2 probes. The cooking chamber is powder coated steel. We have 570 square inches of cooking space. You have 429 on the lower main grate and 141 on the top warming rack. But I'll say that warming rack, it's very small. You have a nice little side shelf. Like a couple of the other pits, we have 2 wagon wheels and peg legs. The one thing that the Camp Chef has over the other 4 is that this pit does have an ash cleanout system, which is really nice for cleaning out that fire pot in between cooks. Honestly, I only had to do a couple test cooks on the DLX to form an opinion about it. The first cook I did a spatchcock turkey and I was very happy with the results. Not only did I have the perfect golden brown Thanksgiving turkey color, it also was loaded with tons of juice. Then of course for the second cook, I smoked up some no-wrap spare ribs. Not only did they have that nice mahogany barbecue red, they also had that perfect bite off the bone tenderness, and man were these ribs juicy. As far as cleanup, the DLX is pretty much the same as all the rest of these pellet grills, but you do have that option of the ash cleanout, so you might not have to vacuum it out as much. My overall opinion on the DLX is that it is a better choice over the other 4. Not because it cooks any better, because for the most part, they all cook about the same. But with all the features on this DLX, you certainly are getting the best bang for your buck. Of course, there's one thing that I want to see Camp Chef change on this pit. Obviously, I'd like to see them follow what Z-Grills did. They put some rotating locking casters on it. It just moves a lot easier instead of having to lug it around. So to sum it up, I will say that all of these pits pretty much perform the same way. The Camp Chef has the most features. The Recteq, it probably wins the smoke battle. The Pit Boss, not only can it smoke, it also has the grilling feature. The Traeger and the Z-Grill, they're good workhorses and they'll get the job done. We'll have links with up-to-date pricing and a more in-depth review on all 5 of these pits in the description below. I appreciate you watching and I'll see you in the next video. Knuckles!